D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5. The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, and David Janes here with you. We are live at Brewhouse South in Cool Springs, 1855 Galleria Boulevard, ahead of Smashville Live tonight at 6 p.m. Predators GM Barry Trotz will be the special guest with our very own Willie Donick and Max Herr. So come on out and join us. Come a little bit earlier, hang out with us ahead of Smashville Live. A fabulous, fabulous day of Olympic hockey so far. We will get more into that later in the program. Willie Donick, maybe one of the best hockey games I've ever seen. Canada survives Czechia 4-3 in overtime. Mitch Marner with the winner for the Canadians. Just an outstanding game. UC Saros and Finland rally from 2-0 down late in the third period to defeat Roman Josi and Switzerland 3-2 in overtime. So UC Saros and Eric Halla advance to the semifinals. The second period is underway between Team USA and Sweden. That game is tied at 0. But you tell me if I am being hyperbolic when I say Canada, Czechia, one of the best games I think I've ever watched.
Yeah, they were both great. I would say that the Canada-Czechia game, I don't think you're exaggerating. I think it was a tremendous game to watch. Really high level of hockey. You know, the Czechs, you knew going in as the underdog, were going to need a few breaks, and they got a few. But give them full marks for putting themselves in position for the big upset. And you did for a minute there really think that they could hold on. They made a tremendous play, albeit with 6 men on the ice, to take the lead. That was a big controversy, I guess, sort of after the fact. And officiating overall in a game with this kind of magnitude is always going to be under scrutiny. But when the Czechs made the great play to go up 3-2, it seemed like the perfect time to take the lead. And you didn't know if Canada was going to have enough. And then they made the great play, the tip by Suzuki to tie it up. And then just a great play by Marner in overtime. So, yeah, it had everything you were looking for. And then a similar situation. Switzerland came as close as you can get as an underdog to putting the game away. They almost had a masterpiece, but Finland woke up just in time, made the plays to get it to overtime, and then found a way to pull it out. So just two nail-biters that were just awesome. Just what you wanted from this tournament.
Team USA and Sweden tied at 0 early in the second period. We will get back into the Olympic hockey tournament. But Derek Mason arrived today.
Yes.
And he told us that he has a surprise. So give it to us, Derek Mason.
Everybody, are you watching? Let me put my headphones
I'm watching.
down.
All right, we're watching.
Adam's watching. If you're on YouTube, you could be watching.
What's happening?
What's he doing?
Oh, God.
Uh-oh, wait a minute. What's he got?
Oh, there it is.
Yes.
The Derek Mason two-tone blue, number 85 from the Super Bowl.
Is this the exact?
You see that?
Is this the
Is
game
this the
worn?
game worn?
Yes.
Wow.
Wearing
And
the two-tone blue with pride.
Has any other color been to the Super Bowl?
No.
Absolutely.
Carrying
love
the
it.
torch.
I love it.
With
Absolutely.
the puma on the sleeve.
Yeah.
And I can
the
still
sword.
fit it. And I can
As
still
well.
fit it.
You're
Absolutely.
playing
Throw me
weight.
some pads
I
on
love
top. I'm good.
Oh,
You're
man.
looking good, Derek.
Yeah.
I wish I could have matched that. I cannot match
So,
that at all. That is
take a
awesome.
Where's your throwback
I
jersey,
know.
Willie?
I
Take
could
a
have pulled
picture
it
of that,
off.
David, if you can see it.
It's weird on the camera. It looks like 28.
It
It
does
look like
28
on the camera.
But this is what
was 28.
this is what I want you to see. That right
That
there.
Super Bowl patch.
Exactly. You
I
see
love
those
it.
two colors, that color and that color.
That's a good
what
uniform.
That's what this represents, okay? The only team in franchise history that has been to a Super Bowl. That's won an AFC championship.
Was that readily accessible? Did you have to really search far and wide to find that?
I knew where it was.
Okay.
Yeah,
when was the last time you wore it? At the Super Bowl?
Did you
at
have
the
it?
Super Bowl?
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you have it framed, or did you have it somewhere in a closet?
No,
like
I had
hanging
it
up?
folded up. I had
Okay.
it folded. I didn't get this one framed. You know, it's just
That's the one.
I
That's
keep
the
this
big
one.
one.
I keep this one locked away. You
You
know?
wear it with pride.
Absolutely. And I do have the Oiler original, all blue, light
Okay.
blue. I do have that jersey, and I will take a picture of that tomorrow. Now that is in a frame. That's in
Okay.
a frame. But I will take a picture of that tomorrow. And I'm sure if the story's true about what the jersey is going to look like, it's going to look exactly like the one that we last wore, I believe. Maybe a little up to date, but pretty
If you
much
had
that.
to guess, I think
Yes.
it's going to
It would
look
be
very
closer
similar
to that
yeah.
one
Yeah.
than this one.
I
So-
appreciate you doing that. It
Oh,
looks
no
great.
doubt.
You look
Thank
great.
Thank you.
You look
Thank
fit.
I'm
You look
keeping
like you're ready to
I'm
play.
keeping it on the whole show.
You don't need shoulder pads.
No,
Look at you.
no, I do need shoulder pads. I double up on shoulder pads.
Jonathan Hutton from Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow will join us at 5 o'clock. Again, we are out here at Brewhouse South in Cool Springs ahead of Smashville live tonight. Predators GM Barry Trotz will be the special guest with Willie Donick and Max Hers. But as we know, gentlemen, silly season in the NFL is around the corner. And we here on DVD are not above being silly. So let's start today's show by discussing something that has been bandied about among Titans fans over the past day or so. Should the Titans, who you might have heard have a ton of cap space this offseason, weaponize that cap space and quote-unquote buy a draft pick from the Miami Dolphins by taking on Tua Tagovailoa's massive contract? There is precedent for this. Back in 2017, the Houston Texans traded quarterback Brock Osweiler to the Cleveland Browns, who took on his $16 million guaranteed salary, and Cleveland received a second-round pick as part of the deal. Now, Tua is owed a lot more money than $16 million. Try $54 million. So let me ask you,
54?
So let me ask you this, Willie Donick. Is the idea of the Titans trading for Tua completely outlandish, or are you intrigued by this idea?
I am very intrigued by the idea. It will be harder for the Titans to pull it off than some other teams, but let me take it a step further. Do you think it would at all be possible if you could jump in there? Just hear me out. You make this work. You get a sweetener, a significant sweetener for going through the trouble of taking the contract off the Dolphins' hands. Then you spend the rest of the offseason trying to find another home for Tua.
Ooh.
And getting maybe another asset. To me, that is absolutely worth pursuing. And I would really try to dive in there and pull it off. But I think for a team where the Titans are, trying to find significant assets any way you can should be what they think about every day coming into the building. And that is a way. And it could be complicated. It would make a lot of noise. And if you had Tua on hand and couldn't find a second home for him, that would be complicated. But at the same time, if the Dolphins are desperate to move on from him and they would throw in some pretty good things to take it, I would be on it.
I had not considered the idea of trading for Tua and then flipping him. That's intriguing. Derek Mason, are you on Willie's side here?
That's a massive hit that you have to potentially take each and every year. If you're going to make a trade for Tua, then you better have a trade partner after that. Because if you don't, you got a $42 million cap hit this year, 40 next year, and a 52 next year, the year after that.
Yep.
And you have guys that you're going to have to that will be due contracts as that last year hit. So you better know exactly what you're doing if you want to take on that contract. For me, it wouldn't just be a second round draft pick. That's where, the last time it left off. We are, a decade removed from that, at least. It's going to be a second and some. The money's larger now.
Yeah.
So you got to give me a second and some.
How about a first? Do I hear a first?
Of course. I'll do it then. You give me a first and a second. Hell yeah. Take them. Give them to me.
What about a first and a third or something like that?
I take a first and a third. I take a second and a fourth. But here's the deal. You got to be able to flip him.
Right.
And in flipping him, you have to be able to try to get something for him. No one, because now you're on the losing end because they know that you want to get rid of him. So no one's going to come to the table with a big deal. Like no one's going to give you your second round pick or No one's going to give you a second round pick, and no one's going to give you a first round pick for him. They're not, because they know you're going to have to get rid of them sooner or later.
All right.
Sooner rather than later.
Okay, hear me
because
out.
of the cap hit.
Now I got the next idea.
Okay.
I'm the GM. You're my assistant GM.
Okay.
I go to you and I say, all right, D-Mace, I hear you. You're right. I don't know what the burden, if he's in our building a couple months and he knows and we know that he's really not our guy and this is just a stopover, can we find a way in the next few weeks, a couple months, for a three-way trade? I don't remember the last three-way trade I've seen in the NFL where we get the other team. We get the Dolphins on the horn. Then we get other teams on the horn and say, all right, look, would you take Tua? We'll take the hit on the salary. We'll take the hit on the contract in exchange for draft picks and assets. You want Tua? We're going to give you Tua at a really good price. We just need a little something from you, a little something from the Dolphins. Everybody's happy. Is that possible?
I don't think that's possible.
I'd be all over the phones trying to make a way to do it. I'm going with the Elliot Friedman, where he says if there's no rule in his fantasy football league, he's the guy trying to bend the rules. I don't know what the rules are, but why couldn't you do that?
I'm not saying that
the NHL has done it, right?
Well, that's the NHL, the NBA.
Parking,
does it.
Parking salary.
They do it. Yeah. But what is the precedent for a trade like that in the NFL? A three-way trade. There could have been, or I'm sure there has been. I don't know how recent it's been. I would be surprised if it's been recent where it's been a true three-team trade for one guy. Here's the thing because once you get him, he's yours now. If I am another team, I'm saying I'm giving you a 4th-round pick for him. Because you got to dump the salary.
Right. That's why it almost has to be three-way.
Exactly.
You work it out.
You got to dump
end.
the salary. So I give you a 4th-round pick, which I think for Tua.
But we're doing the Dolphins a favor.
3rd to the 4th.
The Dolphins are going to give
But
us
now
some.
somebody's doing you a favor.
Right.
Which
so you might not get as much from that other team. And that other team is going to look at it and say, well, this is great because we're going to get Tua at a price that we like.
But they still got to take on the contract.
But the Titans are eating a lot of the money. That's the burden they're taking off. That's the incentive.
They want to transfer that over to now. If you
not
work
necessarily.
You can work out a deal
can
where
you work it out where we'll work together on that.
Exactly. A portion of it is being because I think we had, but it wasn't in the trade. Manzada, I think he ended up getting cut by Seattle. He came to Baltimore. Seattle owed him, I think, like 7 or 8. Baltimore paid him. Not 7 or 8, but then they had to pay the rest of it. I could facilitate a trade like that if I'm X team. All right, he's due whatever. He's due $15 million. Let's just say 15 million, 20 million. Let's just keep it at that. He's due $20 million. Of that $20 million, we will take on $10 million of that contract. But you got to pay the rest. We'll take them. We'll give you a 4th or 5th. We'll take them, but you got to take on half or majority of the contract.
Adam, I would not want this to be something that if I'm Mike Borgonzi, would burden me for the next 2 or 3 years. But if I could take a 1 year, I'll eat as much money off of that contract as I possibly can stomach. And maybe that slows my rebuild down from, a free agent spending perspective. Like maybe I don't have quite as much to go out and fill holes with free agency, but I get 2 or 3 quality picks in the mix, then I think that's worth the trade-off because they don't have a lot of guys on the roster right now that they need to re-up with, right? They've got a lot of cap space, and we're like, what do we do with all this cap space? To me, that would be something worth doing. I haven't done deep research. I can't tell you exactly what it would do to their budget, but to me, that kind of thinking outside the box is worth exploring for sure.
But even with that, you have to sort of put aside a coffer for injuries, guys you may have to bring in during the season that we have to have money for.
You definitely have
to bring them in. But it's going because again, and I know Adam has been looking, and if you found a precedent for it, Adam, you haven't. So I don't think there's been a precedent of that. And I mentioned Manzada, but that was a cut. He got cut by Seattle. The Baltimore Ravens signed him. Seattle still had to pay him a portion of the contract because he was owed that. But Baltimore only signed him to a 1 year, $1 million deal. Well, Seattle had to pay the remainder of that. There hasn't been a precedent where it's been via trade, where you hold on to half of his salary or portion of his salary. We give you a 4th or 5th round pick. But is that for the remainder of the salary, or is it just for that year that you're taking a chunk? See, when you can do that when the money's low, but when the money gets this big, it's harder to sort of facilitate a 3-man trade or 3-team trade.
Do we have essence, Adam? Do we have any idea what the rules are in terms of breaking up? You know, if you're making a deal to try to take the load off of that contract, do you have to take the whole contract? Can you, for lack of a better term, do what the NHL can do, and that's what do they call it when you retain salary? Can you do some of that in the NFL? I don't know.
I am not a salary cap expert in the NFL, but here are some particulars on Tua's contract situation from ESPN. He has $54 million in fully guaranteed compensation in 2026. That breaks down as a $39 million salary and $15 million option bonus that needs to be exercised between the first and third days of the 2026 league year in March. Additionally, on the third day of the 2026 league year, $3 million of his $31 million 2027 salary becomes fully guaranteed. So if he's on Miami's roster as of 4 p.m. Eastern on March 13th, the Dolphins will be on the hook for $57 million guaranteed. ESPN continues, if they were to release him, meaning the Dolphins, prior to that date, they'd still have to pay him the $54 million in 2026 cash and would absorb $99.2 million in dead salary cap charge. Ooh. If they were to find a way to trade Tua before March 13th, the acquiring team would become responsible for the $54 million in 2026 salary and bonuses, and the Dolphins' dead money charge would drop to $45.2 million. If they traded him after March 13th, presumably they'd be on the hook for the $15 million option bonus, while the new team would take on the $39 million salary.
Okay, here's what the NFL,
a lot of numbers there.
Google says about the NFL, and it's 2 things, and it's interesting. It said yes to what I said. Can a team retain contract if they trade a player in the NFL? Say yes, the NFL can technically retain aspects of a contract, specifically in a form of an accelerated cap charge, dead money, when trading a player, but they cannot keep the player's rights or have them play for them. All salaries, obligations, and contract terms transfer to the new team. Now, here's another one. No salary retention. Unlike some other sports, NFL teams cannot pay a portion of a traded player's salary to facilitate a trade. The new teams assume the full remaining salary. So they got to take on the salary. You have to take it on.
All right, so let's think on the fly here, Adam. You make the deal before March, would you say 13th?
Yes.
So that's if you're the Titans, let's say the deal's got to be good enough. The Dolphins are like, look, we got to be done with this. Mm-hmm. We're moving on. We're starting over. We need Tua in another place. Mm-hmm. And the Titans say, okay, we're your guys. We can swallow that money. We can eat it, but you got to give us something really good. So let's say whatever that really good is, a first and a third, something like that. I saw it for 3 number ones. I saw somebody propose a few weeks ago. I don't think that's going to happen.
His days are behind him. Tua's days are behind him.
Right, but at some point, the Dolphins want to do something different at quarterback, if that's what they have concluded. So then the Titans then pay the $15 million or whatever that is, the roster bonus, and then that lowers the money for the next team that you could be your three-way trade.
But still,
you get something from them to take that contract.
You can't. But still, if you're trading him, yeah, you may. If you want to wait that long and have to pay him, I'm not sure if I'm a team I'm willing to do that. But in this respect, I guess you have to do it in a sense because you want to unload Tua. So say if you do that, so you pay the $15 million, you pay him his bonus, even though I think in the NFL, based upon what was said on Google, that's kind of hard to do. But say if you do it, the team that me, the Titans, if I trade him, they still have to take on all of his contract, minus the bonus that Miami already paid. Miami only helped me. Miami, that was the only thing. Miami helped me because they kept him long enough to where they had to pay the $15 million. The roster bonus, then you trade him after that. Well, the next team I have, I don't. That's not in place. They got to pay the full amount, as I understand it. Now it could be a little bit different, but the next team would have to pay the full amount. So they're going to be.
In
They're
theory,
not going to be
they're
willing.
still getting Tua for less.
Yes, they're getting it for
and
less.
they
They
don't have to give me as much as the Dolphins. The Dolphins have already given me, the Titans, what I really want is some really good assets for eating this money.
615-737-1025. It is silly season after all. Should the Titans consider buying a draft pick by trading for Tua Tagovailoa, who appears to be on his way out in Miami? 615-737-1025. We will continue the conversation. Coming up next, Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game.
Hey, if you injured yourself in a motorcycle accident, go to lawtigers.com for your free case evaluation. Even if your accident was months ago, you have nothing to lose by calling Law Tigers. Insurance companies want to pay out as little as possible, or frankly, nothing at all. But Law Tigers fights to get you the compensation you deserve, and they don't get paid until your case has been settled. Look, they understand how much your bike gear is worth to you, so they will help you get it all repaired or better yet replaced. So call 1-800-LAW-TIGERS or visit lawtigers.com. Law Tigers is powered by Freeman and Houston, and you can find them in Nashville, located at 2126 21st Ave South. And also, don't forget, go to predatorsbike.com to enter to win a custom Nashville Predator Indian motorcycle signed by the entire team, courtesy of Law Tigers and Music City, Indian. That's Law Tigers, Tennessee's motorcycle lawyers.
That was Cameron Wolf on NFL Network talking Tua Tagovailoa. We're having some fun here. It's silly season after all. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan talking about the idea of the Titans weaponizing their cap space, which is something we talk a lot about in hockey, Willie. You don't really talk about it in the NFL. Can the Titans weaponize their cap space and receive a premium asset or two by taking on Tua Tagovailoa's contract? I have received some clarification via Ben Solak of ESPN.com. He says, quote, an acquiring team would take on a 3-year deal with a $39 million base salary in 2026, fully guaranteed, and be saddled with another $15 million option bonus if Tua is traded before the third day of the 2026 league year. Because Adam Schefter reported that the Dolphins are willing to swallow some of Tua's contract to get a trade done, it's easy to infer that they take on the $15 million bonus. So Lack continues, quote, I'd wager that the Dolphins don't just take on Tua's $15 million, but also some more of the 2026 salary to make his contract more of a 1-year deal in the $30 million range with some team options behind.
Are they speculating that the Dolphins, in order to pull this off, would still have to give away an asset to have somebody take it?
I think that is the conventional wisdom, that in order for a team to take on this contract, which is not a good contract.
For a guy that's a big risk,
yes.
As we know, right?
Yes. That is conventional wisdom, that if the Dolphins want to trade Tua, they will probably have to give up a premium asset in order to get it done. And the Titans have been on record talking about how they want to accumulate top 100 picks. They missed an opportunity to do that by not trading down in the draft last year. Sorry, Willie. They also missed another opportunity to do that by not trading Jeffrey Simmons ahead of the NFL trade deadline. So you may have to get creative in order to acquire a premium asset. And that's what the genesis of this discussion is.
All right, let's get to another part of this. Let's say you have to prepare for, if your grand plan, your perfect storm is to swallow the money, take big assets from the Dolphins, and then wheel them to another team. You do have to be prepared for not being able to find another team.
Exactly.
So could you have Tua on your, if it essentially becomes a 1-year deal, could you have Tua on your roster for 1 year? Or does that completely screw up everything? That would not be easy in my mind.
Listen, I think Cam is comfortable and confident in who he is as a quarterback and what he brings to this organization. Because the only way you can do this deal is if you talk with the representatives of Tua Tagovailoa, letting him know, listen, we're looking to move you, but if we can't move you, you are our backup quarterback. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. You are not competing for the starting quarterback. You are our backup quarterback, and if something happens to Cam, you will segue into. We feel comfortable with having you start a few games if need be. But I think that's something you need to talk to with his representatives, because if you don't, then they could be left with sort of this thought of, I want to compete for the starting job, and it won't work that way because it's going to cause a rift, even if you don't want it to cause. It causes problems when the backup quarterback ultimately wants to be the starting quarterback, all while the starting quarterback is doing really well, or he's a young guy that's still developing.
I was surprised when I researched this earlier. Did you know that Tua's career completion percentage is the second highest in NFL history?
Oh, he's a good quarterback.
He has completed 68% of his passes in his career. Only Joe Burrow has a higher completion percentage in NFL history.
He is a really good passer. I say his best days are behind him because of the concussions. It's not because I don't think he can play the quarterback position at the level he once played it. I just think the concussions that he's had and how he has been after them is one of the reasons I think Miami wants to go in another direction with him, because they don't think he will overcome whatever is going on with them from a mental or health standpoint.
And remember what he did when he was accumulating that completion percentage. It was an offense that was suited
Quick.
for the quick release, which he's got. They had the perfect personnel with Tyreek Hill,
Waddle.
Jalen Waddle. I mean, they had a really good running attack. For a while, that offense was in a groove, and it was perfectly suited for his skill set. In another skill set, in another offense, on another team, I don't know if he can replicate that. I think that's how the Dolphins are looking at it. And on top of it, as you said, there's a lot of question marks as to whether he could stay on the field. But I'm still intrigued by if you trade for him and you've got him, and everybody knows that he's not your guy, the market could really turn if you're willing to stomach having him on the roster. I don't know what the heck you do with Will Levis at this point, right?
And that's another
that
thing.
might affect it.
If
that
you
will
do
affect it.
Yeah, if you
But
do it, what is the deal with Will Levis?
If I'm getting the assets from the Dolphins to swallow the money, and then I've got a chip, because in a perfect world, Tua doesn't play. He's a backup, and we get him up to speed. We get him healthy. Maybe he has a couple good preseason games, and a couple weeks into the season, he looks like a good trade chip for somebody. You could hold him for a while, and before you find another hole. Worst case scenario, he's on your roster for a year. You cut him after a year.
But you're holding on to him, and again, that means you have to depart. You don't have to, but I think it would be best if you part with Will Levis.
You probably have to do it at that point,
and allow him to go somewhere to compete, because you bring in Tua in that contract, and with the assumption of there's a possibility that you may not be able to move him. So now you have a starting quarterback, a backup that you're paying $30-something million to, and then you got another guy that all he wants is another opportunity to become a starting quarterback in this league.
Let's get to
that can cause a rift in a locker room.
Let's get to some of your reactions. 615-737-1025. Craig says, if I could get Miami's first or second round pick this year, so I could get Jeremiah Love or Jadarian Price in the draft this year, I might consider it. I really want Cam to have a great young running back to help him out there. Tommy says, I'd stay away from robbing Peter to pay Paul. It doesn't always work. I'd rather use our money on free agents than try to get draft capital out of Tua. Trading for him could come back and bite us in the behind.
I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say he's not right. I think it does have the potential of coming back and biting you, because you're doing the deal expecting to move from him ASAP, because you don't want to take, and you want the draft picks possibly for this year or next year. So yeah, it can backfire on you. That's just that, but that would be the risk.
Right. There's risk with everything you do.
That would just have to be a calculated risk.
I will play the other side of the coin on the free agency thing, because I see it. But year in and year out, the free agents that you get usually are short-term fixes, and you got to overpay for those assets. I think I would rather have the draft picks, if the draft picks are legit. Like, I'm not talking about just give me a fourth here, a sixth over here. I'm talking about really good draft picks to take the burden off of Miami. Miami wants to move on. They've already moved on from Tyreek Hill. They want to move off from Tua. They want to start fresh. What are you going to give me? What are you going to give me? If it's good enough, I'll take the contract and I'll deal with it.
The other thing you said yesterday, Willie, as we discussed this after yesterday's show, was, is Tua a threat to Cam Ward at this stage of Tua's career? We know the checkered concussion history. He is not the player who led the NFL in passing yards in 2023. He had more than 4,600 passing yards in 2023. Tua is no longer that player, but where did Tua go to school? In the SEC. Mm-hmm. Where are we located? In SEC country.
And who was his coach when he made his...
Brian Dable.
Yes.
So, can you only imagine in this hypothetical scenario if Cam Ward struggles even just a little bit with Tua sitting on the bench?
That would be a thing. It would be a thing, because as soon as Cam doesn't play well, let's try Tua. Let's try Tua. You would have that natural. You cannot avoid that. That would be part of the thinking process if you were to go down this road.
615-737-1025. We'll continue to take your reaction on this. Second period just ended in Italy. Team USA up 1-0 on Sweden. Dylan Larkin with the goal from Jack Hughes and Quinn Hughes. So the U.S. one period away from moving on to the semifinal round of the men's Olympic hockey tournament. We will discuss that tournament in just a little bit. 615-737-1025. But coming up next, let's talk about the Titans' actual starting quarterback, Cam Ward. Ryan Daboll addressed reporters today for the first time as Titans offensive coordinator. We'll hear what he had to say coming up next. 615-737-1025. Tonight, Vanderbilt men's basketball takes on Missouri. An 8 p.m. tip-off. Pre-game show starts at 7:30 here on 1025 The Game. Coverage is presented by Gary Force Acura.
All right, let's tell you about Loan Pronto. If high-interest credit cards and other loans are sucking the life out of your finances month after month, Loan Pronto has an option you really need to take a look at. It's the rapid equity loan. It's time to say no more. Let Loan Pronto tap the equity in your home and get the cash you need, and so you can pay off those high-interest credit card bills, car loans that have a higher mortgage rate, or interest rate rather. Here's an example. Corey and Jack called Loan Pronto. In a matter of days, they had $160,000 out of their home's equity. They kept their 3% mortgage intact, and they didn't even need an appraisal. With all that cash, they then took it, wiped out the credit card bill, wiped out 2 car loans, and the net result was that they saved $2,000 a month. You can do this too. Just go to loanpronto.com and ask about the Rapid Equity Loan Program. They can get you the money you need to do the same kind of action. Pay off those credit cards, slash your monthly payments, breathe easier. 615-499-5780 for Loan Pronto, or just go to loanpronto.com. That's 615-499-5780. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781. Visit NMLSconsumeraccess.org.
This opportunity to work with Cam?
Yeah, I think every situation is unique.
again, we've had some young quarterbacks previously with obviously Josh and Jackson at New York, but everybody's different. I don't want to just put him into a particular box. I think the most important thing is to first develop the relationship with the young man and then get a feel for how he's seeing the game. That's hard to do right now when you're not able to sit down and talk a lot of football. So I always like to see the game through the quarterback's eyes. And again, there's going to be mistakes out there that I think he's made on tape previous, and he might have a completely different answer. So that communication is really important. I've learned that dealing with Josh, dealing with Jackson, but been around some veteran quarterbacks. It's a hard position to play. It's easy to sit back there and say, what the hell did you do that for? But until I can get that communication with him and go through these plays with a fine-tooth comb, iron out the details of it, we're a little bit of ways from that.
That was new Titans offensive coordinator Brian Daboll addressing reporters today for the first time since being announced as the Titans' new OC. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. Clearly a lot of excitement about what Daboll can do for Cam Ward because of his history with Josh Allen. We saw Jackson Dart play well under Brian Daboll before Daboll got the boot in New York. Derek, what did you like from Daboll's news conference today?
There was, and I forgot who asked this question about, catering sort of the offense to the talent, and he talked about some guys in particular. But I did like his answer as far as, listen, we are here to help these players in any way we can, basically, in any way we can. And we're going to design our offense, or we're going to do what our talent allows us to do. He talked about, DK and, him being really good on special teams. And then he mentioned some of the things that from an offensive standpoint, but they're there to take a guy and say, what is it that guy do best? All right, let's put him in a position to do that to the best he possibly can. So we're going to center our offense around the personnel that we have. I may not be able to call a game the same way or run certain things the same way I did when I was with the Giants or when we were in New England or Buffalo. I may not be able to run the offense that way right now. I have to cater it to the talent that I have on offense right now, and in hopes that once we draft, we develop our offenses. Not that it's a really good offense, but it's an offense that allow young players to come in and contribute right away. Some offenses you go into, it's like, math at its highest level, and you're just like seeing stars with everything, and you can't keep up. But then some offenses are player friendly, where the guy can come in, and these young guys in particular, they can come in and absorb a portion of the playbook until they can get up to speed. Those are typically the offenses that thrive, whether it's in New England, Kansas City, whatever, because they take the skill set of the player and they design something, a package around that skill set. Why do you think some players only run reverses or only in there on third down? Certainly, because we've geared that package to that player. We didn't just say, we're going to run our offense and y'all just fit in. No, our offense has to fit the talent that we have.
I heard that from Gus Bradley as well. That's an interesting angle, is trying to figure out a way that young players, draft picks, new guys can come in and not have a steep learning curve. The other thing that jumped out at me more than anything is Daboll and Bradley both are so polished. They have been around the block. They handled themselves at that conference exactly the way they wanted to. They both got hit with questions about specific players that they more or less said the same answer to, and that is, don't really want to get into our scheme, don't really want to get into exactly how a particular player, even Jeffrey Simmons, fits into a particular scheme. He was even measured, Daboll was, on how he wants to use Cam. He doesn't want to give anything away. That's the mark of an experienced coach. Both those guys have been head coaches. Mm-hmm. Contrast that with the guys that they rolled out there, the very inexperienced guys, starting with Callahan and going to the coordinators. Those guys were not as good at maneuvering through the questions, and I think they fell into some traps. I wonder how that translates when you're actually with your players. I mean, will they do a better job in the locker room teaching and getting the most out of what they have? Because they're not going to have a loaded roster.
No, they're not. And I think their big thing is going to be, getting these guys to learn this offense as best as they possibly can, and then working off of that. Because right now they just don't. They have young talent. I'm not going to say they don't have any talent. They have young talent, but that it's going to take some years for that young talent to mature to a point where you're signing them to second-year contracts or remain with the team or not. So with that aspect, if a young guy comes in, and I'm just basing it on my experience, I think it helps the team. It helps the morale of those young players, because a lot of times young guys come in and it's not that they can't play. It's just they feel overwhelmed what's being asked of them, the play calls and everything else. Because I think I shared this story with you guys before. Listen, first day of training camp, we're going to throw about 300 plays at you. And that's just a meeting before camp starts. We're going to throw about 300 plays, and you better know those plays in the morning. No, seriously. You better know those plays. And a lot of them are sort of redundant plays, but you better know them all. And then the next day, we're going to add a little bit more. Then we'll go back some, but we're adding and we're adding. So it's not, a lot of times, it's not like they can't. It's just so much on them. And their head starts spinning. If you slow it down for them, ease them into the offense, you're more likely than not to have an offense that's going to grow and develop than you are. Now, if you got a veteran team and it's okay, you can fire hose the guys, the older guys, but the young guys, you still have to bring them on at a pace, that's going to be beneficial and not detrimental.
Dare I say, Willie Donick, that Gus Bradley and Brian Daboll won the press conferences?
No, I thought we banned that.
We banned that.
I know.
We banned that.
We banned that.
I
You can't say that.
I know.
Well,
I'm just joking.
But I think it comes across their experience level.
Yes.
They have been around the block, both of those guys. And that, I think, will be an asset to the coaching staff, it would seem.
Go ahead.
No, it seems like there's a level of leadership in every aspect from the people that you're hearing from, whether it's Saleh and his demeanor, the leadership comes out, Daboll, leadership. You see Bradley, the leadership. Even Bones, you see that leadership, that okay, I can lead a group of men. I'm not sure if we had that with the prior, coaching staff.
How many staffs have a special teams, defensive, and offensive coordinator who have all been head coaches in the past?
That's a good question.
I would bet not too many.
Because special teams,
what would
they
we bet?
usually start out and
10,
stay with special
right?
teams.
Maybe less
guys
than 5.
like that. Like special teams guys, usually if they start off as special, usually they stay
They're
there.
not a former head coach.
Yeah, it's not a former head coaches, and they love that aspect of the game. So they usually, a lot of them stay with the special teams. Now you have your Harbaughs, I get that eventually gets jobs, but I guess in the past it was more so special teams coach. It was like that's what they did.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to mean that they're going to, be way, way better. Gus Bradley said something that I think probably is more true than a lot of fans want to believe, maybe a lot of media want to believe sometimes. He said that when you come in for a new staff, the other staff, they knew what they were doing, right? It's not like they had no clue how to coach football. This is sometimes, I think, the trap that fans fall into. If you're not doing well, that means the coaching's awful. They have no idea what's going on. They've never looked at a football before. How did they ever get the job to begin with, right? That's how they're perceived. Then sometimes that same coach will go over to another team and do really well and be like, oh, man, how is he doing it? That guy was terrible when he was over here. But Gus Bradley made the point. He said, we're coming in with maybe a different philosophy. We're going to take what they taught these guys, and we're going to adapt it to what we want to do, right? But I thought that was a good point. But I do think that the stability of having that much experience at the top of your staff is going to have value in a lot of ways. And just from our standpoint, not falling into the media traps that Brian Callahan was constantly falling into. and just it showered the building with, oh boy, we got it. What happened? Like, it's just on everybody's mind. I think we're going to avoid that with these guys with their experience.
Paul Kaharski at his website yesterday ranked the Titans' all-time offensive coordinators before Brian Daboll, and it's not a star-studded list. Here were Kaharski's top 5 Titans offensive coordinators. Number 1, Arthur Smith. Number 2, Mike Heimerdinger. Number 3, Les Steckel. Number 4, Matt LaFleur. Number 5, Terry Rubisky.
Honest me, and I'm biased, I'm putting Les Steckel first.
Todd Downing did not crack the top
team
5.
to the Super Bowl. That was his offense.
It was.
As probably boring at times as it was, because I mean it was run, pound, ground and pound. That's what it was. We had Eddie, we had Frank, Chris. We wasn't an explosive offense in that terms from a passing standpoint. But that offense did get us to the Super Bowl. Don't forget that. Now, we went to 2 AFC championship games and 1 with Heimerdinger, and we had some really good offenses. I get it. And because of Heimerdinger, my career was able to take off. I get it. But we can't forget about Les Steckel and putting him at 3. He took that team to a Super Bowl. And see, that's why the whole jersey thing for me, it's touchy. It's like, this man took this team to a Super Bowl. And y'all don't want to recognize that? It wasn't flashy, but his offense took a team, and we were damn near close to winning the Super Bowl.
When I look at this list from Paul Kaharski, what it tells me is Brian Daboll doesn't have to clear a high bar to be the best offensive coordinator in Tennessee.
Well,
Titans
Arthur
history.
Smith, you got to give him full marks. They had a cooking offense for a couple of years.
That is
But
true.
it was a couple of years.
He got a head coach.
But it was
He got a head coaching job out of that. Yeah,
2 years. And he did a great job.
But that's the only 2 years he was there, right? Or 2 or 3.
Yeah.
They had that was a great offense. Now, he had players, right? He had Derrick Henry, but the rest of the offense, he had Ryan Tannehill. He didn't have
AJ was here.
superstars.
He had some young
good
new
players,
yes.
and that was a really, really good offense for a while. Heimerdinger was a good offense coordinator.
Oh, yeah.
You think?
Hell yeah. Absolutely. I think. But again, I'm not going to, as much as I thank, Mike for his willingness to, put me out there and really center the passing game around me. Les Steckel took this team to a Super Bowl.
615-737-1025. We'll take your reaction to what Brian Daboll and Gus Bradley had to say during their introductory news conferences earlier. 615-737-1025. We see your calls. We see your texts. We'll get to them coming up next. We are live at Brewhouse South in Cool Springs, 1855 Galleria Boulevard. So come on out and see us. David James is back at our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. D-Mace, Vingan, Donick, 1025. The Game, Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, and David Janes here with you. We are live at Brewhouse South in Cool Springs, 1855 Galleria Boulevard, ahead of Smashville, live tonight at 6 p.m. Predators GM Barry Trotz will be the special guest alongside our very own Willie Donick and Max Hers. So come on out and join us. You can join us now.
Yes, if you're in the area.
Yes.
The third period has just begun. So if you want to stop by, grab something to eat, something to drink, and watch USA versus Sweden. It is 16 and a half to go. Philip Forsberg and the Swedes are on the power play right now.
Let's go to Dan on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Dan, thank you for waiting. Please go ahead.
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking the call.
Sure.
Okay. Titans fans, if you love watching your defense only rush 4 all the time, you're going to love Gus Bradley. If you love bend, don't break defense, you're going to love Gus Bradley. If you, I don't know, man. I don't know what to say. I've watched Gus Bradley with Indianapolis from 2022 to 2024, and it was nails on the chalkboard. If the offense can't sustain drive, you're not going to win the ball game because the ball never gets turned over by your defense. It's just, I don't understand why they hired Gus Bradley. I try to want to support the Titans, but when they make decisions like this, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I don't want to leave it on a negative note, though. Saros registered a shutout against the juggernaut Italians. Reset the drought meter, baby. We're back.
Thank you, Dan. We will get to the Olympic tournament and UC Saros in just a moment, but Dan is also not a fan of Gus Bradley. Now, keep in mind that Gus Bradley is the non-play calling defensive coordinator. Not to diminish Gus Bradley's role, but Robert Saleh will be calling the defensive plays, and Gus Bradley worked with Robert Saleh in San Francisco last year. But, Dan, not a fan of Gus Bradley.
Well, Gus Bradley, and D-Mace, you heard this, he was specifically asked about
Yes.
getting to the quarterback with 4 rushers. And he said, look, every defense and every defensive coordinator would prefer to be able to rush the passer with 4.
Yeah.
But not every defense is equipped to do that. But I don't see why that's nails on a chalkboard. That's just simple math, right? If you can get to the quarterback with 4, you got 7 guys back there covering and not 6.
No, I mean, I wouldn't worry about it too much as far as, what you saw at Indianapolis, because, yes, he is the DC by title, but, he explained it too. This is going to be a working relationship, and, he wants to take, as much pressure off of Coach Saleh as he possibly can, because he not only is he the defensive coordinator, he's the coach of the entire team. So having someone that is sort of, like-minded helps. I can see if Gus Bradley was going to be the defensive coordinator, but he's not. But there may be some times where there may be a bend not but don't break sort of mentality. But I mean, if you saw it with Gus Bradley, it seems like they think alike. You're going to see some of it here, but how much of it? And then it all depends on, talent you have. Some bend and don't break teams with talent looks damn good. But then you have a bend and break team that doesn't have as much talent, and they may not look as good. So this team has some talent on defense, particularly in the front 7. They add another pass rush. I think that bend but don't break defense will end up suiting this team very well.
As Dan also mentioned on that call, let's start with UC Saros. The men's Olympic hockey tournament ongoing, as Willie said, USA up 1-0 on Sweden, 14 minutes remaining in the third period. But earlier today, UC Saros and Finland defeated Roman Josi and Switzerland 3-2 in overtime. Also Eric Haula on Finland, not to forget Eric Haula. The Finns were down 2-0 late in the first period. A miscommunication, puck handling gaffe with UC Saros. He stumbles as he tries to get back in the net. 1-0 Switzerland. Nino Niederreiter scores, former Predators forward, to make it 2-0. And that's how the score stayed until late in the third period when Sebastian Aho and Miro Heiskanen scored to force overtime. Arturi Lehkonen with the winner for the Finns in the quarterfinals. So Roman Josi goes home. UC Saros and Eric Halla remain in Italy. And yesterday, I made y'all choose. You had to pick one, Finland or Switzerland. And both of you picked Finland. And Derek, you made the point. You said UC Saros needs this more. And UC Saros had a rough performance in the opening game of the tournament. Again, a miscommunication for the first goal against Switzerland. But for the tournament, anti-Saros crew members out there, for the tournament, UC Saros 3-1 with a 149 goals against average and a 938 save percentage, 91 saves on 97 shots. He's allowed 6 goals in 4 games in this tournament.
He needed it. And, whether it be, in a regular NHL game or in a, setting like this in the Olympics, I think anytime you can build up momentum and get some confidence, that's good, especially when you're playing against some of the greatest players in the world. And your team isn't, in a position where if you don't play well, they really can't compete. And he went out there and he's playing well and they're competing. I just hope that transfer over. And I think people will look at it depending on how the next outing go. I think if he does well, people will look at it as a good thing because they weren't expected to possibly get this far. And I know a lot of people were down on him, but him having this type of Olympics, I think is going to be good for him moving forward.
I thought it was a great game today for the Finns, but my observation was, of course, that they're better than Switzerland. And it was interesting when Switzerland took the lead, Finland didn't really come out of the shell. It was kind of a close to the vest game for a long time. And then finally in the third period, Finland got a little more aggressive offensively, and that's when they came back and were able to get the game tied and win it in overtime. And in the meantime, Saros made some really important saves. You won't really see it in the volume of shots that he faced, but Switzerland, I thought, did a pretty good job of playing not to lose. And there was a stretch in the third period where they got some good chances to maybe put the game away, and Saros made some good saves. I think you're if you say he struggled in the first game, I don't buy that. It wasn't his best game, but it wasn't a bad game at all. Then he played a great game against Sweden, which is the key game in the tournament so far for Finland. Italy was Italy. I could have had a shutout against Italy. So how he did in that game, to me, is irrelevant. And today, that goal was a miscommunication between him and his defenseman. It may well have been on Saros. It might have been more on the defenseman. It's probably more likely to be a combination of the two. That goal shouldn't have happened. It did because the defenseman and UC Saros did not communicate and gave away an easy layup goal because they just couldn't get back. The coverage was all broken down because they turned the puck over. Then the second goal he gave up, the only other goal was Nico Mikkola, who's I think 6'6", 6'7", was 1 foot from UC Saros. He never saw the shot by Niederreiter, so that wasn't on him either. But here's where we're going. Who's the next game against? Finland.
If the U.S. wins, Finland will play Canada.
Right. So they're either going to play Canada or Sweden, I guess.
If Sweden wins against the Americans, Sweden will play Canada because they reseed following this stretch of the tournament. So
then they would play Slovakia?
If Team USA wins this game, it will be Team USA versus Slovakia, Team Canada versus Finland. If Sweden wins, it will be Team Canada versus Sweden and Finland versus Slovakia.
So I think if it's Canada, that's when you're really going to see Saros tested. I mean, I think Sweden did to a large degree, but Canada's a whole nother animal. Now, Sidney Crosby got hurt today. He looks like he might be out for the rest of the tournament. It did not look good. but they have so many other weapons. Any goalie, whoever is facing Canada next, you could play well and give up 4 or 5 in that game. That's just how that game is going to go. So I would encourage all of you that are watching through a microscope or evaluating on social media with the microscope, which there's a big difference. Watch the game, watch the chances. And that's the tricky part about this tournament is these games are not played when a lot of people are off of work. It's the only thing that's missing. If these games were in prime time, I think we'd be going nuts. It's a lot more like the NCAA basketball tournament. You're going to have to take off for lunch. Here you got to call in sick, something like that, to watch all these games. It's well worth it if you can do it. But I'm really curious to see Saros in the next game.
So again, if Team USA holds on to defeat Sweden, Team USA will take on Slovakia tomorrow. In that scenario, Finland will take on Canada. If Sweden comes back to win, Sweden and Philip Forsberg will take on Canada. Slovakia will play Finland in the other semifinal.
So, what do you think? I think Finland will have another chance against Slovakia. Slovakia, though, I got to give them credit. They've played great. They have overachieved, and they are deserving of being the surprise guest in the semifinal.
As I said to start the show, the game between Canada and Czechia today, a 4-3 overtime win for Canada, may have been the best hockey game I've ever seen. It was edge of your seat good. And when Czechia scored, with 6 men on the ice, by the way, to take a 3-2 lead late in the third period, I have no idea. But late in the third period, Andre Palat scores to put Czechia up 3-2. I said, I think that may have been the fatal blow. But then Nick Suzuki scored on a deflection with about 3.5 minutes left. And then Mitch Marner, who, gets a lot of crap for not playing well in big games, scores 1-on-3 in 3-on-3 overtime.
It was the first thing I thought about. It was the Toronto fans that have buried that kid. He's not a kid anymore, but they have been on him so hard. You never win in the playoffs. You never get anything done in the playoffs. Now you're a Canada fan. You're watching that. He makes an amazing play where he took a chance, right? He jumped. He tried to split 2 defenders. He could have easily pulled back, started a rotation like you see a lot of times in 3-on-3. Like you want to take a high percentage shot in 3-on-3. He said, nope, I'm going through. I'm going to make this play. He made a spectacular goal. So I was thinking, he wants, I'm sure in his mind, he's like, take that, you Toronto fans. You don't think I can come through in the clutch? You don't think so?
I wonder
like that?
I wonder what Maple Leafs fans were feeling at that specific moment.
Right.
I would love to know. Man. I was rooting for Czechia. I was rooting for Czechia.
You wanted the upset.
I wanted the upset. That would have been, again, tell me if this is hyperbolic, Willie. If Czechia would have pulled that off, you could make the argument that it would have been the biggest upset in Olympic history, hockey history. I don't know.
Bigger than the Miracle on Ice? No way. Not even close.
Not even close?
Not even close.
When you consider NHL players being on the team?
Well, I mean, the Czechs have David Pastrnak and Marty Necas. And
that's true.
Tomáš Hertl.
Okay, how about the second biggest upset?
I think if you go back through the years, there's some ones. They showed some highlights of one that I vaguely remember. Maybe it was 98. Maybe it was 02. I don't know. But somebody beat Sweden. Belarus beat Sweden, I think, at one point. There have been some bigger upsets. The Czechs bring quite a bit to the table.
They do have some good players. That is true.
Now, not to say that they weren't a significant underdog, but they've got some very good NHL players on that team. And they had some other guys that aren't in the NHL that were playing great. So I don't know enough about the entire Olympic history.
I may be a prisoner of the moment.
I think you're a prisoner of the moment.
I acknowledge that.
Have you seen the movie Miracle?
I seen the movie Miracle? Have you checked my passport? Of course I've seen.
Well, but how could you bring that? You can't. I mean, you've watched David Pastrnak play.
Yes.
The Miracle on Ice team did not have anybody even close to David Pastrnak.
I know, but
the Soviets had a team that beat NHL All-Stars more than once.
But I'm watching Connor McDavid out there
Oh, it's an unbelievable team.
It's unbelievable. And you know what? Again, Macklin Celebrini scored his 5th goal of the Olympic tournament. Boy, I'd sure like one of those on the local professional hockey team. But it is what it is. Although,
you know what's great about this is it's not a series. It's one game. It's
Yes.
like the NCAA basketball tournament. You could be the better team. And Canada was the better team against the Czechs today. Statistically, right? It was Canada hit the post a few times. The Czechs hit 1 or 2 maybe, but the scoring chances were not 50-50, even though the game was tight. They were classically trying to pull the upset and almost did. But for one game, anything can happen. It's not a 3 out of 5 or 4 out of 7 where you could be upset one time.
yes. And although I was bummed that Canada pulled it off, you want Team USA to win gold by facing Canada. I feel like it wouldn't. I mean, look, the players, they're going to love winning gold no matter what. But I think a lot of fans feel that, hey, if Team USA is going to win gold, we want to watch them do it against Team Canada. So although I was disappointed that Czechia didn't pull off the upset, part of me was like, okay,
we're going to see the game everybody wants to see.
yes, and that game I think comes on at like 8:00 in the morning.
I think it's 7. It's not good.
But I will be up early on Sunday morning watching that game. Team USA clinging to a 1-0 lead.
Yes.
6:50 remaining.
Clinging is the right term.
Clinging. 6:50 remaining in the third period against Sweden. Again, if Team USA wins today, they will take on Slovakia tomorrow. UC Saros in Finland would then take on Team Canada in the semifinals. 615-737-1025. Your thoughts on the men's Olympic hockey tournament so far? 615-737-1025. Speaking of tournaments, the NCAA men's basketball tournament is closer than you think. And I have a question for Willie and Derek about that tournament and a couple of local teams and one in-state, not local team that I want them to answer coming up next. 615-737-1025. Today, Vanderbilt baseball takes on Eastern Michigan at Hawkins Field. That starts in just 10 minutes at 4:30 p.m. Catch all of the action on 94.9 The Fan and the Game Nashville app. The coverage is presented by Gary Force Acura.
Hey, this is Derek Mason. You heard me tell you about Dr. Lodge and his staff over at Cool Springs MD for some time. If you set out to lose weight, chances are it's not your first time setting a goal to shed some extra pounds, only to face disappointment. But I got some good news. It's at Cool Springs MD. Dr. Lodge and his team understands the frustration of this cycle, and that is why they offer a different approach to weight loss. Their comprehensive weight loss program is led by Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and addresses the root cause of weight gain with tailored nutrition, exercise, blood test supplements, and more. They will customize a program specific to you and you only. So connect with Dr. Lodge at CoolSpringsMD.com today to schedule your appointment for a personalized weight loss plan just for you. That's Cool Springs MD, where your weight loss journey becomes a success story.
D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5 The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. It's crunch time in Italy. Under 4 minutes to go in the third period. Team USA clinging on to a 1-0 lead against Sweden. Dylan Larkin of the Detroit Red Wings with the 1 goal for Team USA. If the Americans hang on, they will take on Slovakia tomorrow in the semifinals. That means UC Saros, Eric Halla, and Team Finland will take on Team Canada in the semifinals. But there is another tournament around the corner. My favorite tournament, March Madness, the NCAA men's basketball tournament. And first of all, I don't want to overlook the game that the Commodores have tonight at Missouri, an 8 p.m. tip-off. You can hear that game right here on 102.5 The Game. Duke Miles and Frankie Collins out once again for the Commodores against the Missouri Tigers. But on Saturday, Tennessee comes to town. Tennessee at Vanderbilt, 1 p.m. tip-off on Saturday at Memorial Gym. You can also hear that game right here on 102.5 The Game. So here's my question for the two of you. Which of these teams are you buying stock in ahead of the NCAA men's basketball tournament? Vanderbilt or Tennessee?
Oh, man. Based upon Vanderbilt's health, and this is a big concern because Duke Miles, when is he coming back? Collins,
What's the
back.
deal there?
What's the deal there?
He may never come back.
He may never come back. This isn't particularly a big team when you start looking at some of these upper echelon teams. But even with that being said, this is still a very good team with a really good coach. And they find ways because of their physicality, their scrappiness, playing defense aggressively. And sometimes it can be to a detriment because they get in foul trouble early. But because of the way they play, and if Nickel can continue to hit three-pointers at a clip he's been hitting it at, because I think he leads the SEC in 3 points, three-point percentage. If he does that, because teams are going to take Tyler Tanner out of the game. If they're going to take him out of the game, they're going to find a way to make it very extremely hard. That's when those other guys got to step up, in particular, Nickel.
One moment, Derek Mason.
Yes.
Team Sweden with the empty net scores to tie the game at 1 with 1:31 left in the third period. Mika Zibanejad at the New York Rangers with the goal. So Team USA had a 1-0 lead for most of the game. It's now 1-1, 91 seconds remaining in regulation. Mika Zibanejad with the goal for the Swedes. So we may be treated to yet another overtime game in this tournament. Hold on to your butts, folks.
Woo! A third overtime game. It is possible. Wow.
That's Zibanejad's shot. He loves that one-timer. One of the best in the league at doing it. So
Phil Forsberg was on the ice for that. Forsberg has been involved in a lot of the threats that they've gotten. They were completely bottled up the first two periods. Sweden was as a team, but they have pushed in the third, and they were able to tie it up.
And if Team USA loses this game 2-1, there's going to be a lot of talk about the roster construction of Team USA because the Americans left behind many of the country's top scorers, such as Jason Robertson in Dallas, Cole Caulfield in Montreal. So if they lose this game 2-1, it's not going to be pretty for Team USA and Minnesota Wild GM Bill Guerin. But we will keep you apprised of that. Willie, which team are you taking more stock in, buying more stock in? Tennessee or Vanderbilt?
I have to say, I'm still learning more about Tennessee's team. It's still a new team, and so I don't know if I have as good a feel for them yet. I'm going to be watching them closer, especially these two head-to-head games they've got against Vanderbilt. I'm very intrigued about the freshman for Tennessee.
Nate Ament.
I think he's only going to get better. He's a unique matchup. The rest of their team, nobody has really jumped out to me as a guy that I'm thinking, wow, can't stop that guy. So I think Tennessee is solid. I think Vanderbilt's ceiling is higher if they get Miles back.
Mhm.
But I think it's more about matchups for Vanderbilt because, and I was watching last night Georgia play. Georgia won at Rupp Arena. I've watched Florida now. Teams that have big, tough size up front and depth up front, that's the kind of team that would scare me if I'm Vanderbilt in a postseason tournament, because I still think Vanderbilt's a little bit small. They are tough as nails, those guys. Okereke, McLaughlin, obviously. Washington's very good, and he's got some legit size, but he's not a beast in the middle. They block shots well, Vanderbilt does, but they have to fight for every rebound. And I think teams that have size have trouble in the postseason. So I kind of want to see their draw. If they get the right draw, I think they can win 2 or 3 games in the tournament, especially if they can keep winning here and set themselves up with a good seed.
By the way, our very own Joe Rexroad, in his latest bracket watch for The Athletic, has Vanderbilt as a 4 seed and Tennessee as a 5 seed. Rexroad also has a projected first-round matchup between number 5 Tennessee and number 12 Belmont.
Oh,
That would be
I'll tell
interesting.
you what, Belmont that's another team that it will be about matchups. But man, can Belmont shoot it. They are arguably, if you just go by the numbers, effective field goal percentage, they're the best shooting team in the country. And you're going to say, well, they're playing in the Missouri Valley. That's different than the SEC or the Big 12 or whatever. And that's true. But they can shoot it. They would be a scary 12 seed for sure.
The one thing about Tennessee that makes me lean toward the Vols versus the Commodores in this scenario, well, there are a couple of things. One is the health of Duke Miles and Frankie Collins. We don't know when either of those players are going to come back. Willie, as you have told us, it's still up in the air on whether Frankie Collins will come back. Duke Miles expected to come back. We just don't know when that will be. That concerns me. As Derek mentioned, the size of the front court concerns me. And Nate Ament of Tennessee is the X factor here. Now, he does not have that. Unless I am clearly missing an example, he has not had that huge game the way that his other fellow freshmen have had, like Cameron Boozer or AJ, is it DeBonsa from
BYU?
From BYU.
Yeah.
Caleb Wilson at North Carolina. Ament, again, if I'm not mistaken, hasn't had that, oh my God, did you see that game? And I'm wondering, as the tournament nears, the end of the regular season, the SEC tournament, the NCAA tournament, if you could see that game from Ament. Now, Vanderbilt has Tyler Tanner, and he's been great this season too. But the health of Vanderbilt, the lack of size, I may lean towards Tennessee in this scenario.
And I could understand, because if the freshman really comes on, then that raises their ceiling even higher as a team. And we know they're well coached. So, but my thing with Vandy is and it's going to be key that they get Miles back, because if they don't, what teams are going to start doing is being physical with Tyler Tanner. And if they can frustrate him, like, was it Georgia that frustrated him? Was it Georgia?
Vanderbilt?
Yeah, the Vanderbilt
Texas
lost
A&M.
to Texas A&M. Yeah, Texas A&M. If they can frustrate him like Texas A&M did.
Oh, Tanner, you mean?
Yeah, Tanner.
Yeah.
It's going to be very difficult unless those other guys are shooting really well. So, Tennessee, I'm like Willie, I haven't followed them that closely in the sense of, knowing more players outside the few that I've named. But I look at Vandy as a team and say, if they can get Duke Miles back, if they can continue to shoot well from the outside and not get in foul trouble, I think they're going to go a little bit further than what people probably envision them.
I'm a little concerned about Tyler Tanner in that they've relied on him so much since Miles and Collins have been out. He's playing a lot of minutes. He's not a big, huge, strong guy. I worry about him wearing down just a little bit.
Mhm.
He needs Miles back.
Yeah.
I think they could be fine. And I right now, I'll believe Collins is coming back when I see it. I don't know. It's just it's too quiet there. Like, it'd be very easy for somebody to say, "Don't worry about it. Collins will be back soon." I know they're close to the vest. Nobody really wants to talk about injuries, but I just don't get a good vibe about Collins right now. I could be dead wrong. They need Miles. That gives them enough. And Tanner benefits greatly from having Nickel and Miles on the court, because if you take one of them off the court, and Nickel's a little easier to guard, let's be honest, right? He is much more a catch and shoot three-point shooter. He can keep you honest driving, but if he drives and takes a tough two, the defense is probably like, I'd rather have that than him spotting up and taking threes. And then Miles is a completely different guy in terms of he can attack the basket, get fouled. He can get his own shot. So he adds a dimension big time. Let's go back to Ament for a minute. Adam?
Yes.
As the season's going on, you were talking about how he hasn't maybe had that big, huge 40-point game, and that's true.
He had a 30-some point game or a high 20.
He has had,
like a few games ago.
yes. If you look at the season, as the season's gone along, he's become more and more of the focal point
Yes.
of their offense. He's shooting more, he's scoring more, and he's becoming the go-to guy.
Yes.
And so I think he's on the rise. And so I'm really curious to see how that plays out as he continues to get better.
He had a 29-point game in a loss to Kentucky earlier this month. He had 28 earlier this month as well in a win against Ole Miss. He's a really good player. He's a first-round pick in the NBA.
Oh, definitely.
I would like to see him have that takeover type game. He has not had that one yet, but maybe he is saving that for the SEC tournament.
He's capable.
Or
But
the
it seems
NCAA
like
tournament.
he's doing nothing but getting better.
That is true.
The more and more he
That
plays.
is true.
And I'm sure UT is hoping that sort of, that peak meets, he hits that peak right at the right time entering into the tournament. But also Vandy, their bench has to play well. Guys like Bing and Harris, those guys, they got to play well because, like you said, Tyler, they've leaned on him so much and he's played so much that he's going to need a rest. They got to be able to come in and with these bench guys and get some good minutes out of them.
Bing, I think, has really become a factor. He's getting better. He's getting more confident. Ooh, Eichel almost won it right there in overtime. We got a very intense 3-on-3 going on right now. And the next goal wins, so this is like we're distracted, I have to admit. But I think Bing is a very important part of this equation. And I will say this, defensively, and you heard it here, I watch Bing defensively. He's very good at taking a guy, and I don't want to say taking him out of the game, but for a freshman, he's a very good defensive stopper that you could put on a guy and just say, go chase this guy all over the court. And I would think that they will try him a lot on Ament on Saturday.
Quickly, one texter says, Tennessee fan here, this team is a good team, but not a great team. It feels like this team is missing that guy, such as Zakai Ziegler or Jemai Meshack from last season.
Let's talk about that veteran guy, that individual that you can lean on that's going to make the right play.
Yeah. But Ament, he's a first round pick.
Yeah,
right.
Definitely.
He's just young. It's hard for a true freshman to be. It's different than now. I've already forgotten his name. 2 years ago, the guy he got for the Lakers, Dalton Connect. Dalton Connect. That guy was older, and man, he came in. He was bigger, stronger. Ament, you can still see is growing into his body. Right.
Exactly.
In a couple years, he's going to be a really good pro, I think.
615-737-1025. Which team are you buying stock in ahead of the NCAA tournament? Vanderbilt or Tennessee? 615-737-1025. Those two teams play each other on Saturday afternoon at Memorial Gym. Vanderbilt, woo!
USA.
Quinn Hughes with the winner in overtime for Team USA. Thank goodness.
Woo! That was a hockey game. How about 3 overtime games in the quarterfinals out of 4?
Poor Zibanejad. He's sad. I don't mean that in a mean way. He is legitimately sad, and that's hard. But Team USA prevails 2-1 in overtime. So it is Team USA versus Slovakia and Team Canada versus Team Finland in the semifinals of the men's Olympic hockey tournament. The top 4 seeds advance to the penultimate round. 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 the game.
Hey, this is Derek Mason. If you've been injured in a motorcycle accident, go to lawtigers.com for your free case evaluation. Even if your accident was months ago, you have nothing to lose by calling Law Tigers. Insurance companies want to pay out as little as possible, or frankly, nothing at all. But Law Tigers fight to get you the compensation you deserve and doesn't get paid until your case has been settled. Look, they understand how much your bike gear is worth to you and what it means to you. So they want to help you get it all repaired or better yet replaced. Call 1-800-LAW TIGERS or visit lawtigers.com. Law Tigers is powered by Freeman and Fuson, and you can find them in Nashville, located at 2126 21st Ave South. And don't forget to go to predatorsbike.com to enter to win a custom Nashville Predator Indian motorcycle signed by the entire team, courtesy of Law Tigers at Music City, Indiana. That's all. Law Tigers, Tennessee's motorcycle lawyers.
What was your thought in the student section chanting Booker's name?
I could give a rat's ass about the other team's student section.
I just meant the overall the way that you
I would like to give you a kudos for the worst question I've ever been asked.
All right, I'll take it.
Did you like
You should take it.
the preparation of the?
You really think I care about the other?
No, I
team's
don't.
student
I don't
section?
think you care about the other.
Are you raising your voice at me?
No, I'm. Just
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are. Come on, dude.
No reason.
Come on. Yes, you are. Everybody's standing here listening to you. Everybody. This is on camera. They can hear you. I answered the question. I could give a rat's ass about the other team's student section. I coach UCLA. I don't care about Michigan State students. I mean, who cares?
The preparation.
That was UCLA men's basketball coach Mick Cronin after the Bruins were bludgeoned by Derek's Michigan State Spartans last night, 82-59. And it continues an eventful couple of weeks for coaches and men's and women's college basketball. Derek, I know you care about Michigan State students. Mick Cronin clearly doesn't.
But you know what? A lot of times, well, in just about every situation, we when we talk about young men and women, we say they are so influenced by social media. You know, they're so sensitive, everything. They want to know everything. And it's like they're influencing our kids. You know who else they're influencing? A lot of these coaches. Like, these coaches, it's just like, why? Why should you even put yourself out there? Why are you doing it? Like, why do you have to go through a back and forth? And it was a simple question. All you had to do is answer it simply. You could have said, hey, listen, that's not where my attention's at. But you almost agitated it even more by your response.
Almost?
Yeah, he did by your response.
I say he did.
And that's
he
not
dove
even,
into that
exactly.
pool.
And it's not even that. What transpired on the court as well. And
He kicked his own player out of the game.
And Willie knows his history better than I do. But it's like all of a sudden these coaches are getting so sensitive, and it's like, and maybe they were sensitive back then, but they've gotten so sensitive now. Not all of them. There are some that everything is like you're on a defensive, and everything. It's like you're almost in a situation where it's like, are you trying to upstage the player as a head coach? What are you trying to do here? We saw the Kansas State coach. Then we see what this coach from UCLA does. So much so that Izzo was like, well, I ain't never seen that before. He really didn't want to go deep into it. He said, man, usually you wait for the ref to make the decision. But he said, I've never seen that. I had an experience with kicking my own player out, which tells you in a probably nice way, Izzo saying you shouldn't have upstaged your player like that. Just sit him on the end of the bench and talk to him after the game.
Well, Mick Cronin, I don't know personally at all. He's been a coach for a long time. He was at Murray State eons ago, and I can remember I did the women's final, the play-by-play of the OVC championship. So I got there, and the women's final was going to be played, and then the men's final. And Murray State was in the men's final. And Mick Cronin was taking his team through the shoot-around. Gym's really quiet. Bridgestone Arena, I forget what it may have been called something else back then. Might have been pre-Bridgestone. But he, in a shoot-around where both women's teams were getting ready to warm up for the game, a championship game, he's finishing up his shoot-around, and he absolutely undressed one of his players. Just ripped him up and down in front of everybody that was on the court, and just it was not good. Now, was that completely uncommon? No. Coaches do that. So I don't know Mick Cronin, but ever since I have been experiencing Mick Cronin from afar, he's always either yelling at a ref or yelling at his players. He looks like an absolutely miserable, he comes across anyway, as an absolutely miserable human being that you would not want to have dinner with, you wouldn't want to have lunch with, you wouldn't want to be anywhere near. I don't understand over the years how he gets the jobs, stays in. I mean, he wins enough games, I guess, but he doesn't look like his team has any fun at all.
No fun, sir.
And so now let's turn to the journalism part of this, Adam. Let's
Sure.
say you're standing there, and he shows up the reporter. Now, was that a great question in the context? Probably not. But for him to turn it on the guy and make the guy feel bad, and then try to one up it and say, "Oh, you're raising your voice at me like it's his problem." He just asked the question. That to me is just a lack of control. Like, I get it. The coach he's ticked, right? He just got his butt kicked, and his team needs to win. They're not a shoe-in for the NCAA tournament. They need to keep winning games. So the last thing on his mind is to address a question on the student section. But a good coach, 90% of coaches can put a lid on it, bite their tongue, and say, you know what? I want to just turn and say this is the worst question of all time.
Uh-huh.
What you think you want to say, what you want to say, and what you say are two completely different things.
Exactly.
And he just decided to be an absolute jerk.
I am interested to see what the fallout is from Kansas State's firing of Jerome Tang, because Kansas State fired him for cause and claimed that his post-game tirade a couple of weeks ago violated his contract because it brought embarrassment to the university. And I don't know if that's going to hold up in a court of law. I have to imagine they'll come to some sort of settlement. Maybe he won't get all of the money. He'll probably get some of it. But
And isn't it interesting that they played their first game without Jerome Tang last
and
night?
they won big, right?
90-74 over Baylor, a pretty good team.
The new coach bump is a real thing. It doesn't matter what sport. It's a real thing. Maybe he was the albatross around the Wildcats' neck this entire time. But I'm curious about this just in the context of all of the comments that have been made by coaches. Kim Caldwell, Lady Vols coach, and what we just heard from Mick Cronin. There have been a lot of coaches lately who have not bitten their tongues about their teams. So I'm wondering, Willie and Derek, depending on what happens with Jerome Tang in that situation, if coaches will be a bit more measured, thank you, with what they say after games.
Depending on how this Kansas State thing sort of shakes out, and it seems like more than likely it'll be a settlement, and he will get the money that's due to him, possibly all of it. But again, I think now, because the landscape of sports has changed. Now, instead of treating these young men and women as students first and then athletes, they're treating them like professionals that just so happens to go to school. And when you're dealing with professionals, you get paid to do a job. And if you're not doing that job, then I, as the coach, should be able to criticize you. Maybe that's how some of them think. Because, I mean, you said this, Willie, they're here today, gone tomorrow. So there's no attachment. There's no emotion. There's no bonding. There's no building. As much as they say, yeah, we bond the whole year, that's just for that year. Now, if you go on a great run, win a championship, that team will always be remembered, and you guys will always be together because y'all got that main thing in common. But if you don't win the championship, it's hard to really bond with a guy for 1 year, and you're really only spending 4 or 5 months with the guy because he's more than likely in the portal and gone or going to the NBA. So you're roughly 4 months with this individual, and you're not building it. So these coaches are like, listen, I should be able to say what I'm going to say. And y'all are adults. Y'all are professionals. Y'all getting paid. So I'm going to criticize. There's no more, what was the old saying? They're amateurs. You can't get on the kids. They're not getting paid. Well, they're getting paid now. So
Right.
It's free game. Even though I still wouldn't take that approach of getting on a player, but to them it's free game.
One texter says, we live in a super soft sports world. Give me Ditka and Knight.
Well, you'll like Mick Cronin then,
Yeah.
I think. But, a guy could be old school like that if there's a balance, right? I think there are certain coaches that, from when you see them do something like that and it's public, you might say, man, that guy's got to be a jerk. But oftentimes there's another side to that guy, and the players are like, that's my guy. I'd run through a wall for that guy. And I think it's harder to be that way now than it used to be, but I think you could still do it if there's that deep appreciation. But there's more likely to have that if your players have been together for 2, 3, 4 years and they know you.
Yeah.
Right. If you're a first-year guy and that kind of thing goes on, it's pretty easy for that kid to say, yeah, I don't know, there's got to be something better than this.
I'm
right?
out of
There's
here.
got to be something better than this. So from a journalistic standpoint, though,
Yes.
Adam, did that cross the line for you?
It
That
didn't
wasn't a great question, but that wasn't the worst question I'd ever heard.
It didn't cross the line, but clearly Mick Cronin was looking to pick a fight.
Yes.
Yes.
Now
Yes,
I didn't
yes.
have a problem really with saying that's the worst question of all time. Like that's one thing, but then to turn around and say, "Oh, you're raising your voice at me?" No. That crossed the line.
That was
was
strange
uncalled
to
for
say the least. 615-737-1025. One texter says, the Titans need to make a move in the offseason and get a great backup quarterback. Well, do we have an idea for you? We will discuss that coming up next. 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game. D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5 The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, and David Janes here with you. We are live at Brewhouse South in Cool Springs, 1855 Galleria Boulevard, ahead of Smashville, live tonight at 6 p.m. Predators GM Barry Trotz will be the special guest with Willie Donick and my personal friend, Max High Maintenance Hers, who is just over there right now, greeting and meeting the people. So come on out and join us. Come a little bit earlier, hang out with us. Smashville Live starts at the top of the hour. Barry Trotz will be the special guest. Team USA survives Sweden in the quarterfinals of the men's Olympic hockey tournament, a 2-1 overtime win. Quinn Hughes with the winner at 3:27 of overtime. So the semifinals have been set. Canada versus Finland. Team USA versus Slovakia. Those games are on Friday. I've been saying tomorrow. I've been wrong this whole time. Those games are on Friday. So Team Finland versus Team Canada on Friday, a 9:40 a.m. Central puck drop. Team USA versus Team Slovakia, a 2:10 p.m. Central puck drop on Friday. The top four seeds, Willie Donick, advance in the men's hockey tournament.
Top four seeds after the preliminary round. I think the surprise guess is clearly Slovakia. They were not supposed to be in this game, but they were able, with the razor's edge tie-breaking format, to beat out Finland and Sweden, which was very significant. All three of those teams went 2-1. Slovakia got the nod, winning the group, and that set them up to play Germany this morning and not one of the other teams. So I think the U.S. has the best draw. They're going to be the heaviest favorite in the semifinal, I think, by far. Canada will be a pretty significant favorite over Finland as well. And so it will be a very, very stiff test for UC Saros with all that firepower he's going to face from the Canadians. But the game that I think the hockey world wants to see is still in play, USA versus Canada for the gold.
Yes, and as one texter informs me, because I have been incorrect for the past hour and a half, 2 hours, the women play tomorrow, Team USA versus Team Canada, which should be another outstanding game in that rivalry as well.
That one I'm curious about because the USA has found another gear. They have had a big edge on Canada in recent matchups. That's always been a fantastic rivalry. But in the last few meetings, USA has had their way with Canada. They crushed them in the preliminary round. I think the gold medal game will be different, but they have been as dominant as you can be in this tournament. I think they've outscored the opponents, 31-1 or something like that in the games. Canada was shut out by the U.S. So that, I'll believe it when I see it if they win very easily in the gold medal game. But USA is a bigger favorite against Canada in the women's final than they've ever been before.
So we had one texter before the break say, the Titans need to make a move in the offseason and bring in a great backup quarterback. Well, texter, do we have an idea for you? We were talking about this at the top of the show. It is silly season after all. It's around the corner in the NFL. And we were wondering, because we're not above getting silly on this program. We don't take ourselves too seriously. So silly season is all right with us. And we want to know if the Titans should consider, quote unquote, buying a draft pick by acquiring Tua Tagovailoa and his massive contract from the Miami Dolphins. You may have heard the Tennessee Titans have a ton of cap space, so they can accommodate to his contract. You hope that the Dolphins take on some of the money, so it's maybe a little bit more palatable. But you don't see NFL teams weaponize cap space the way you do in the NHL, for example. This happens a lot in the NHL. I wish the Predators would do more of this. Maybe you can ask Barry Trotz about this during Smashville Live. We see this in the NHL. A team with a boatload of cap space will take on another team's bad contract, and to make it work, the team giving up the player will give up a premium asset, a prospect, a draft pick. so that the team with the cap space is willing to take on the contract. You don't see that much in the NFL. In this scenario, the Dolphins are probably going to have to attach a sweetener to Tua's contract in order to get him off of their salary cap. So we're just throwing it out there. It is sports talk radio after all. It is silly season, as I said. Is it the worst idea in the world to acquire Tua Tagovailoa? Brian says, I need to put a certain pipe down, if you know what I mean. A certain pipe down. Brian, I can assure you I am clean and sober as we are doing this program.
There we go.
But that is the reaction that some people will have to this. It's a crazy idea, but is it just so crazy? It might work.
I mean, I can see why, because they're looking at the number that you would have to absorb with Tua's contract. And, they're looking at, it's not a sure thing that you can acquire him and then move him on. So I understand that. But then again, if you are, sometimes you have to take risk, and, maybe the fan base is thinking, hey, y'all have taken enough risk. Okay, we want to win, and we want to do it the right way. But part of doing it like that is taking some risk. So the risk would be, acquiring a contract, getting the picks, but then not being able to move them. That's your risk. And now you're on the hook for a guy that's going to make $30 million, because obviously you would negotiate the bonus that's inside of that, that's right along with the $30 million. So maybe the Miami Dolphins take on that, but still you got to take on the contract. But, how do you weigh that against getting potentially a first and a third or a second and a fourth? Even though, Willie, you may have to hold on to that contract at least for a year, possibly two.
I think the first thing, as I've thought about this more, is for the Titans to get involved, it absolutely has to be worth your while with the sweetener. There are some quote-unquote experts, people who follow the league, who are good reporters, that feel like the Dolphins might be able to actually pull this off and get a draft pick back, and not, hey, we're doing you a favor, you have to throw in your draft picks for us to do this. So that's the first thing. Like, obviously the Titans aren't going to give the Dolphins anything, but if the Dolphins are sitting there going, what do? We've got to get this contract off our hands anyway, anyhow, we're moving in another direction. If you could get a significant pick to take that contract, then I think you have to look at it. And then in theory, and I realize this is not fantasy football, right? You have to physically have him in your building. You'd have to manage it. But then you could have the attitude of, let me find a team that maybe gets a quarterback injury, maybe things change for them when training camp starts, and you're in a catbird seat with an asset to be able to trade him again and get another asset. So if your only cost is eating a big chunk of the money, then that's a cost worth looking at, I think, in the long term.
But you're talking about,
it depends on how much you can get.
You're talking about potentially 3 years of that contract. You taking a dead money hit.
You'd have to do the math. You'd have to do the math and hopefully grab as much of it, swallow it as much as you can in the first year, to where it's not going to be a lingering thing for years after that.
Well, I think Miami, their thing may be, listen, we're going to have to pay the 30 plus, whether he's here or not. From this standpoint, people believe that the Miami Dolphins, because of the head coach's relationship with the Green Bay Packers and Malik Willis, they believe that Malik Willis will at least be their starter for the next year or two. So in their mind, we're going to have to pay it anyway, because we're going to have to give Malik Willis at least 15.
You're saying the Dolphins want Malik Willis to be their next
Yes, they're going to have to at least 2 years, $30 million, or 3 years, whatever. But you're going to have to pay him $15 to $20 million that first year. plus the 15 you are going to have to pay Tua if indeed you negotiate where you take on the signing bonus and then the team takes on the contract. So in their mind, I mean, are they really winning outside of them getting rid of Tua, or outside of them not having to pay the 15 million or the contract?
All I would say is I would be thinking outside the box. If I could look at the numbers and say I could eat that contract in the short term. Like you said, Derek, it's important that they don't have this as an albatross. If they go down this road for 2 or 3 years. This would be a 1 year as my team is continuing the rebuild and hopefully on the uptick. What if I could get more picks? And the cost is I eat the money and I have a little less to spend on free agents. Then long term, I think that's worth looking at.
Okay, what if they say we'll eat the 15, you give us a fifth, we'll give you a second and a fourth? Now I don't know how that's going to translate, but I'm just saying but you had to give something to take on Tua's contract.
If I'm going to eat that contract, if I'm the Titans, I want 2 top 100, 110 picks, at least, for me to consider that. And if I can't, then I just walk away and say, all right, I took my crack at it. Mm-hmm. I don't know how many teams are going to throw their hat into the ring here. You have to have enough salary cap space, and I think the Titans have the most. Is that right?
Yes.
Adam?
Yes.
So are you prepared, like they did a couple years ago, to just throw all the money at all the free agents? We see where that got them. Nowhere. They overpaid. It wasn't smart. I think, you want to have enough of a budget to address some needs, but I don't know if it's smart to throw a lot of money at older free agents. I'd rather, if I could exchange that for a couple extra picks of players that, if I'm confident in how I pick, could be the part of a really good team a couple years down the road, then I'm looking at that.
Skyler on our text line says, Titans have wasted money on Snead. What's the difference in that and making the deal with the Dolphins?
The difference of that was that they traded an asset to get Snead.
Correct.
Then they paid him a huge amount of money.
But they were bringing him in
They were
a starter.
Right. They thought they were going to get it. See, Snead was how old at the time? 26?
Yeah.
27? I think they thought they could get three or four good years out of Snead. It was probably misguided in that it didn't match with their team. Right? Their team was kind of sinking down and trying to hang on, and that was sort of doubling down as a gamble.
Snead was 27 at the time.
27, yeah. So that's, you can see why the Chiefs did it, and the Chiefs are very glad they did that deal.
One texter says, foreshadow 6 weeks into the season, people are going to be calling to bench Cam and start Tua. Well, that's a bad scenario you guys are putting out there.
Now that is something you would have to deal with because you could get stuck holding the bag for Tua if you can't then wheel him off. In my perfect scenario, you would then trade him to another team where you've shouldered some of the burden of the contract, and it looks even more beneficial for that next team that needs a quarterback badly or didn't know that they needed it until the start of training camp or something. Because you're right. If Tua's the backup quarterback and he's played for Brian Daboll, it's an easy one for everybody in town going, Cam's struggling, let's try Tua.
I don't think Cam's going to struggle. I just think he's going to play at a level that he's continuing to develop as a player. I don't think he's going to struggle much, if at all. I think they're going to bring him along at a pace that is sufficient for him and an organization. So that concept of, and I know I've mentioned it, and it can happen on teams, but that concept in this situation, I don't think it would ever rear its head, because I think Cam will always play at a level where it's like, okay, he's getting better. It's not perfect, but he's getting better.
And I think the coaching staff, because of their experience, especially with the New York media, everything they've been through, could do a good job of managing the noise.
Exactly.
Because they've been nothing but fully committed to Cam. Even Brian Daboll today didn't reveal a whole lot, but he came right out and said, yeah, I did all of the research on Cam. I had dinner with Cam last year as we prepared for the draft. I did all of the research. I was on board. I like Cam Ward. So that was before he ever was in consideration for this job. So I think it's pretty sincere, especially if you match that up with the Giants made a pretty significant offer for that first pick. So he definitely thinks Cam Ward can be good. So I think you could keep that at bay, but again, you're taking a risk because nobody's ever done this before, right? Acquire a player that you probably have no intention really of playing.
Well, you have to go back nearly
assets.
10 years ago to the Brock Osweiler trade.
Yeah.
That was the last time a team basically, we call it in the NHL a salary dump. That's what happened with Brock Osweiler from the Texans to the Browns, right?
But the Browns tried Osweiler as their quarterback. Like they needed a quarterback. This was their idea of a Moneyball type of move. In fact, it was the guy that he was played by in the movie Jonah Hill.
Jonah Hill.
That Paul DePodesta is his name. He was a baseball guy for the A's for a long time. And then he went to the Browns, and the Browns tried this. It didn't work, right? But they tried the same concept. Oh, you're going to give me more picks, more assets? That's what I want. And I'll take Osweiler, who's undervalued by you, and maybe he could be a good quarterback for us. But he became one of the dozens of Browns quarterbacks who were just miserable.
One texter says it has to be a first-round pick and another high pick, or don't even think about it. But even at that, I'd be very wary about it just because of the relationship that Tua and Daboll have might cause locker room problems.
Again,
why would that cause locker room problems?
I don't know. I think Daboll with Tua in college, it worked out pretty good.
Yeah.
So why would they have problems?
Well, he only played half of a game.
Half of a game. He really. I mean, I'm sure that he helped recruit Tua, so he got to know him in that sort of way. But they haven't built up a history enough to. It's not like he was.
You'd have to say, in the
NFL.
It would be something that your regular run-of-the-mill locker room has hardly ever seen, if at all, right? So it would be awkward, to say the least. I think about when Deshaun Watson was sort of on the Texans, but not really there. He was kind of a ghost, right? He had to show up to get the paycheck, but he wasn't going through. He wasn't on the team, so he was ostracized. I don't think it would be that crazy with Tua, but it would be weird. Like everybody in the locker room would know this is what's going on.
Like he's not. He's really not.
We want you so that we want to move you on to another team and get the asset for you.
So do you even buy? You don't. You rent. You rent an apartment.
Right.
Rent to own, maybe.
Exactly, knowing that you will be gone, and
the Nashville real estate market's pretty good.
It could be a matter of weeks, and you'll be out of here. So.
No tax state. You keep your residence.
But he wouldn't be here that long to even take advantage of it.
615-737-1025. Is it the craziest idea in the world for the Tennessee Titans to consider buying a draft pick by trading for Tua? Is it the most outlandish thing you've heard the three of us say in the history of this program? Somebody accused me of enjoying something a little bit as I
there was something about a pipe.
Yes, something about a pipe
and not a dream.
And no,
not a dream.
Not a dream.
But and then here's the question I would have for the listeners.
Okay.
How high would the pick have to be? And what would the package have to entail to be worth it?
Okay. You heard the man. 615-737-1025. A reminder, we are live at Brewhouse South in Cool Springs, 1855 Galleria Boulevard, ahead of Smashville, live tonight at the top of the hour, featuring Predators GM Barry Trotz. 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game.
Now, here's your latest Fox 17 Code Red weather report.
I'm Fox 17 meteorologist Brett Luna. Thursday is going to be a warm one with high temperatures in the mid-70s. A cold front will move through Thursday evening and bring a chance for showers and thunderstorms. There's just a very low chance for a strong storm. A few isolated showers are possible Friday and Saturday.
Your sports live here on the Game Nashville Sports Network.
D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5 The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you live at Brewhouse South in Cool Springs, 1855 Galleria Boulevard, Smashville, live at the top of the hour. Special guest, Predators GM, Barry Trotz. So stick around. Willie Donick's going to stick around. Max Hers is here. Barry Trotz will be here at the top of the hour. But we're continuing the conversation. We're having some fun during silly season in the NFL. Should the Titans consider buying a draft pick or draft picks by acquiring Tua Tagovailoa from the Miami Dolphins? And a lot of you have thoughts on this. Not all of them bad, surprisingly. One texter, Scott, says, am I crazy to think Tua would be a good influence on Cam from the sideline? The Titans have had success with Miami retreads, of course, referring to Ryan Tannehill.
I am not even doing this with the idea that I'm going to resurrect Tua. I don't plan on playing him, ideally. That's how I look at it. I'm only using him as an asset that can get me more assets. That's how I'm looking at it. Anything beyond that.
This is purely transactional.
Yeah.
Purely transactional. And I realize in the real world, that's hard to pull off. But from they need picks, I would be thinking outside the box to see if I could pull this out. I was even thinking about a 3-way trade. But I'm not sure you could do that necessarily unless you have it set up ahead of time, like before March 13th, after March 13th, where there's, $15 million?
Yes, so here are the contract details on Tua from ESPN.com. He has $54 million in fully guaranteed compensation in 2026, his $39 million salary, and a $15 million option bonus that needs to be exercised between the first and third days of the 2026 league year next month. If they were to find a way to trade Tua before March 13th, the acquiring team would become responsible for the $54 million in 2026 salary and bonuses. One would assume that the Miami Dolphins would perhaps pay that $15 million option bonus as a way to maybe not give up as much to get rid of Tua. So theoretically, the Titans would not be taking on the full freight, all $54 million of guaranteed salary. But the Titans have a stated goal of acquiring a certain amount of top 100 picks over the next few years. And as we detailed earlier, their first opportunity was at the draft last year with the number 1 overall pick. They did not trade down. So there went that opportunity. Jeffrey Simmons, they could have traded him at the NFL trade deadline. Probably could have gotten something pretty good. They didn't even consider it, remember? Mike Morganti said he's off limits. That was another opportunity. So you're trying to be creative here. In this scenario, you trade Will Levis too. You're not going to get a premium asset for Will Levis, but you can get a draft pick back. And then you would get, in this scenario, a draft pick from the Dolphins to take on Tua. So it helps you build up that draft stock in a creative way.
Yes, but you can creatively create a bigger problem by taking on, that contract. Because again, you don't want to go chasing picks. You don't want to, we could have gotten this for Jeffrey Simmons, or we could have gotten this at the beginning of the season. Those were easier moves to facilitate. Those were not moves that were outside the norm. Everybody does that. What we or a lot of the people sort of propose they do during the trade deadline. That's easy to do in a sense because it's done every year. But to do what we're talking about, that's a little bit harder to do. And you may end up creating more of a problem than creating an avenue for you to gain more draft picks.
I would just want to find out how bad the Dolphins want to get rid of Tua and move on. Because here's the issue for the Dolphins. They're between a rock and a hard place. They really want to move on from the money, but it's not like they are swimming in draft picks either. Here's a good number, which is, again, the mindset I think the Titans need to have. This is why I'm interested if I'm the Titans in terms of getting the draft stock, as you said, Adam, as opposed to spending your cap space on free agents. Since 2022, the Dolphins have made the fewest number of non-quarterback draft picks in the entire NFL, 20. The Packers are first. Now, what do you think the difference is between first and last in terms of non-quarterback draft picks since 2020? Just throws at the dartboard. We're looking at dartboards right over here at Brewhouse South. The more darts you have, the more chances you have of hitting. How many more darts have the Packers had than the Dolphins since 2022 in the draft?
12.
What do you think, Derek?
Oh, man. Since when? 2022?
Since 2022,
Okay.
the Dolphins have made 20 non-quarterback picks. That's the fewest in the league. The Packers are first.
I would say, oh, man. I would say 15.
You're closer. The Packers are first with 37. So they've had 17 more darts than the Dolphins, and that's just when you're not picking a quarterback. If you narrow that down to the top 50 picks, Miami has made 3 non-quarterback top 50 picks since 2022. The Packers have made the most with 11. So 11 top 50 picks. The Packers are really good at what they do. That's how they have the roster. That's how they were able to trade for Micah Parsons, right? Because they built up good young talent that's fairly cheap, and you can wheel and deal better if you can get into that catbird seat. And so the Dolphins would have to dig deeper to get out of that if they're giving up another draft pick just for you to take Tua's contract. But that's the very reason that I would be interested in that if I'm the Titans. I'd eat the cap space to get the picks.
But the Dolphins, I don't think the Dolphins are in that's a lose-lose situation for them. It really is.
They are in a pickle.
Yeah,
they're in a pickle.
Because even if they get rid of the contract, they're getting rid of picks as well. Then if they keep the contract, it's like they're buried in it, so they gotta. So
it's a little bit like
exactly.
the Falcons with Kirk Cousins last year.
Exactly.
One texter says, Brandon Allen is obviously not a viable backup if the Titans need someone to actually play in Cam's stead. Besides Tua, who else is out there with an appropriate cost, but you would feel okay putting under center?
But this is not about the backup quarterback.
That's
I cannot emphasize this enough. You're not getting Tua to be your backup.
No.
You're getting Tua so you could trade him to another team.
I mean, he may be your backup in this scenario, but that's not the purpose of bringing him in.
Right.
The purpose of bringing him in this scenario would be to acquire draft capital.
Yes, and then hopefully double dip and trade him again and get more draft capital. In the meantime, I think the Will Levis part of this is a something you'd have to consider if you're going to go down this road. If you get some interest on the Dolphins' part, you'd have to be prepared to say, well, what do we do with Will Levis?
Maybe he's a part of that trade.
Maybe
he's a part of that trade.
Brandon Allen, I think I'm not going out on a limb here. He will not be the backup quarterback.
I would assume that would be
Jameis Winston.
I know, but you would have to trade for Jameis Winston. He's still under contract. I think, all hypotheticals aside, you all tell me. I think the likeliest situation here is the Dolphins don't find a taker. Maybe they eat that $99 million or whatever it is dead cap charge, similarly to what the Broncos did with Russell Wilson a couple of years ago. And Tua signs for the veteran minimum, signs like a $1.2, $1.3 million contract with some team because he's getting all the money from the Dolphins. I would assume that's probably
more likely. Yeah, because I think even though what we're talking about sounds great, I'm not sure the Titans would be, in the business of trying to facilitate a trade like this, considering, where they're at as a franchise, what they're accumulating, and to roll the dice on a move like that. And if it backfires and you end up holding on to that contract for maybe the whole duration of it, that's not a good place to be. So, like I said, Miami's in a bad place either, whether they keep him or not. Maybe they do like Denver and just eat the money and rebuild as quickly as possible. Because outside of that, I can't really see anybody making a trade like that unless you're just basically giving them away.
One texter says, I've been listening to this talk all day and I love it. However, local Titans fans do not seem to understand that it's buying a draft pick. I mean, we're trying to make that clear.
Exactly.
Yes.
You're not bringing in Tua to compete with Cam Ward in this situation.
No.
He's just a warm body, but he comes with, hopefully, a top draft pick of some kind that the Titans can use to help
that's
build
what I
up
want
the
to hear.
roster.
Do we have anybody that actually has made an offer and say what would the offer need to be for you to have it be worth the trouble, worth your while?
Sean says that would be colossally stupid.
Okay.
Eating $45 million would need to be a first-round pick minimum. To eat 45, I don't know if he means 54 or whatever the figure is. I'd need a top 16 first or a late first and a third.
Well, and that is what you would have to decipher.
Yes.
Is would it have to be that, or no deal, or could you accept a little bit less? I might be willing to talk a little bit less if it's just the first. Just that alone is very tempting.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to get 2 picks, and then ideally, I then retrade Tua to somebody that does need him to play quarterback, and I get something from that team too. So 2 or 3 draft picks to me is what you're shooting for in this scenario. But there's risk involved, just like with anything else. If you're stuck holding the bag and Tua is on your roster, you got to deal with that.
Yes.
And then you got to deal with what's going on with Will Levis or whatever else you had up your sleeve for backup quarterback. And you might not have a taker for Tua. But in the meantime, I think looking outside the box, when you've got the most cap space, you want to try to take advantage of that if you can. What do you call it? The weaponizing.
Weaponize
your cap space.
Yes.
If you can.
One texter says, what you're discussing with Tua sounds like it requires some things to go right for the front office, and that's not really how the Titans do things.
In the past, yes. In the past, yes, they have.
They're turning over a new leaf,
exactly.
Right?
They have had their ways with doing business, but this is a new. They're giving you new jerseys. They're giving you a new logo. They've given you a new GM, a new head. This is a new Titans team. Fans, let's hope.
One texter says, first and a third, and they pay the bonus. So you take on the $39 million for a first and a third.
Yeah.
So
But
that's where you
again,
really find out how desperate
Exactly.
Miami is to do this before March, whatever.
March
right?
13th,
But
I
if I'm
believe. is the date.
Miami, I'm still not doing that. I'm not giving up my first round pick. I just let him be my quarterback for a year or two, man.
I think that ship has sailed.
You know,
You think so?
I don't think it's completely sailed, but if it came down to that,
The guy got
if I'm
benched
the
for
owner,
Quinn Ewers.
But it's a new.
That was with the
coaching
old
staff, man.
coaches,
Yeah, this is
right?
a new coaching staff.
That's
so,
true. That's true.
You know, they may just keep Tua. You never know.
I think
They don't
I
want
think they
Because
bite the
there's no
bullet.
quarterback that they can get at that spot. They can come in and if they had if they
Malik
had the number
Willis.
one pick, I'm saying like a guy they can draft.
Well, one texter quickly says, zero chance the Titans ownership would spend $45 to $55 million for a draft pick. Do you think Amy Adams shrunk?
Well, it's you're not spending it in addition to what you would spend. It's just part of your cap space. You're going to spend the cap money on somebody. You're just spending that money
on
draft picks or to acquire draft picks instead of throwing it at free agents or not spending it or not spending some of it.
615-737-1025. We'll take your reaction and we'll wrap up the show. Coming up next, we are live at Brewhouse South in Cool Springs, 1855 Galleria Boulevard. Smashville Live starts at the top of the hour with Preds GM Barry Trotz. Come join us, 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game. D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5 The Game, live at Brewhouse South. Smashville Live starts at the top of the hour featuring Barry Trotz. Plenty of Predators fans in the house, so come on down to Brewhouse South in Cool Springs and enjoy an hour of hockey talk with Willie Donick, Max Hers, and Predators GM Barry Trotz. Jerry on our text line has an interesting text. Jerry says, so let me get this straight to put this in perspective. Willie wants to purchase a used beat-up car for $54,000. When he buys this used beat-up car for $54,000, he gets the ability to purchase another car, which may or may not be functional in this year or next year. So now he has two cars, and he's going to hope somebody pays him anywhere close to the $54,000 that he paid for the beat-up used car and gives him another chance to pay for another car, which may or may not be functional for what he needs. This is possibly the stupidest idea I've ever heard.
I don't think he understands how this works.
All right.
This is not.
Explain it to Jerry.
Right now, like you would be paying the $54 million in lieu of paying that to other free agents.
Right.
I'm getting draft picks that are very valuable. Or else I'm not doing it. I'm not getting it if all I'm doing is eating the $54 million to get a 4th round pick or a 6th round pick. I'm not doing that. I'm offering to take this off your plate if you're going to do something for me.
Yes.
That's how I look at it. Then once I have Tua, I can then retrade him to somebody else and get another asset. It's not the same as swapping cars. It's all about assets, right? And utilization of assets. I'm not sure. I don't see the connection of buying a car in here.
Me either. I'm trying to.
One texter says, if they did it, it would be at the expense of bringing in 2026 free agents. I don't think that. I don't know if he means this coming season or next season.
It would affect your budget to go out and have a shopping spree for the free agents. I'm just not a big fan of going out on a shopping spree for free agents. That rarely, if ever, works. You got to be smart about it, and hopefully it wouldn't kill your whole budget. But that's why it would have to be worth your while. You'd be replacing. Instead of two guys you might throw some free agent money at, in theory, you would have two more draft picks that you could use. And those would be the players that you hope to fill holes, especially if they're top 100 picks, right?
Richie from White House says, paying Tua $50 million to be on the bench would basically be like the Falcons paying Kirk Cousins that huge contract to be the backup. No need to spend that money on the backup. Spend it on other players instead.
The scenario is you would be receiving Tua to turn back around and trade him away.
Yes.
You're getting draft picks to take Tua, whether it's a 1st and a 3rd or a 2nd and a 4th. You give me a 2nd and a 4th, that contract, I'm then going to take that contract and I'm going to trade it away.
Right.
In hopes to get another pick out of it.
And the incentive for the team, because you're saying, well, why doesn't that team just go straight to the Dolphins?
Because the Titans can pay some of the money too.
Right. So the Titans can eat a lot of the money, and each day you eat the money, Tua becomes more palatable for that next team. It's not as much of it because his contract is an albatross right now. That's why Miami's even considering this.
I think off the bat, you sort of the Titans are gonna. Well, Miami's going to absorb the $15 million right off the bat. So you're not getting him for the full price. They're going to have to handle the $15 million bonus. The Titans take on the $30 million. You have to pay him and then take that and trade him away to somebody else. Yes.
The other part of it that I would be asking is, hey, what if I took the $15 million? I'll pay the full.
So you want to take it all?
But you got to give me an extra pick to do that.
Or
we could talk about, you want to pay the $15 million? Okay, you're going to give me less. Well, I still want to know what you're going to give me.
One texter says, draft, develop, retain. 12 picks inside the top 100 in 3 years. This helps those goals. One texter says, absolutely do it. Brock Osweiler trade from the Texans to the Browns got them a 2. And that was only $16 million. We're talking upwards of $50 million.
And I think Tua still has that. If you're really optimistic and you have a certain kind of offense, there could become a day where his stock could be worth something. someday. Right?
Yes.
Could. Here's the hypothetical. You make this trade with the Dolphins, and Tua's on your roster for the offseason and then the preseason. And in the preseason, a team loses their starting quarterback, and you're thinking, and that team is a good team, and they're like, what do we do? Who's got a quarterback? Well, the Titans are sitting there going, we got a quarterback. That guy's been pretty good. He's got a 70% completion percentage sometimes. He's been playing with us. He's healthy. You want him? We'll trade him to you. I do think that is possible. It's also possible that you're stuck with Tua the whole year, and you have to cut him at the end of the year. That would be worst case scenario.
And then you have to take on the remainder of that contract.
Right. And then you're it's some sunk cost involved. But that's why what you get from the Dolphins is essential. It's got to be something really good. It's got to be a first-round pick, or it's got to be a second and a third. It's got to be a combination of things that has you saying, we want those picks. Remember, the Packers, 11 top 50 picks since 2022. That's the most in the league. The Packers are good. They've been making good use of their draft picks. There's only one way to get the picks, and that's acquire them. You just don't get it otherwise.
DraftKings Sportsbook has its 2026 NFL win totals up. Venture a guess on the projected win total over/under for the Tennessee Titans in 2026. Willie?
I'm going to say what the odds makers will say now, which will be different after free agency and the draft, right? I don't know why they even do this, because everybody's going to be changing 12 to 15 players minimum in the next couple months. But I will say they're going to say 5.5.
Derek?
6.5.
Derek is correct. 6.5 for the Tennessee Titans.
That's 5 games from last year, or 2 games from last year? No, 4 games from last year.
Well, they won 3 last year.
No, I'm saying what they projected them
I feel like it was consensus 5.5 last year.
I don't recall.
Maybe 6.5.
But the Titans open at over/under 6.5 wins. By the way,
why do you think it's 6.5? Before we even know what they're going to do, we don't know who they're picking it for. That's a weird number. I wouldn't take that. I'd wait.
Bet the under. Willie Donick says. Bet the under.
I don't know. I mean, you don't know what they're going to be. I don't know. I might jump on it if they went 5.5.
But I don't think they're going to swing one way or the other that much, because they would only be adding to a team already that they predict to win 6.5 games. So you would almost think if they have a good draft, people think they have a good draft and a good free agency, air quotes, then that jumps it up a game possibly.
Yeah. Maybe that's part of why it's set at 6.5 now, because they presume they could get a good player at 4. They have a lot of money to spend.
Yeah,
they're gonna have something. I think this is the advantage that Saleh has in my mind. He's coming in where if the system is working with the salary cap, you should be ready to win 6 or 7 games, which isn't any great shakes, but it's going to seem like a lot compared to the last couple years.
Keegan Smith, who writes for DraftKings Sportsbook on these over/under win totals, says this about the Titans at 6.5 wins. Consider me stunned that this line is set where it is. The Titans selected at number 1 in last year's NFL draft and took Cam Ward, whose all-22 tape shows a much better quarterback than the box score may suggest. Outside the now sophomore gunslinger, there's very little to feel great about as far as current roster talent and recent results are concerned. Tennessee's coming off 3 straight seasons under the 6.5 win mark, tallying just 3 victories in each of the past 2 seasons. Those did have less than stellar coaching from Brian Callahan, who was dismissed during 2025. Robert Saleh deserves more credit than he gets and will almost certainly be better as the team's voice. But 6.5 wins assumes a lot of growth. Can't argue with any of that, really.
You should start to win a few more just by luck.
You would think,
that's like teams that really struggle for a long time. You wonder how that is possible. Like the Browns for so long, the Jags for a long time, just can't get it right.
It becomes a mentality.
When you're picking high and you like all these things are set up in the system for you to start to get at least a mediocre. It's amazing that some of these teams stay at the bottom.
I do have a question for you, Willie Donick, to ask Barry Trotz during Smashville Live. I want to know if Barry Trotz thinks today was one of the greatest days of hockey he can remember. 3 overtime games in the Olympics. I read during the break that before today, there had never been a day with more than 1 overtime game in the Olympics featuring NHL players. But 3 today. USA defeats Sweden, Canada defeats Czechia, Finland defeats Switzerland. Fantastic hockey today in the quarterfinals.
I think that would be tough to top. I think we can conclude that in the Olympics, in our experience, at least there's only been a handful that have had the NHL players. That's got to be the best single day. And with a winner-take-all, it's basically a Game 7 going to overtime 3 times in one day. That's like 3 Game 7 overtimes in one day. I don't know how often that's ever happened in the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Yeah.
3 Game 7s going to overtime in one day. That may have never happened in the history of the game. Maybe once. I don't know. But that's a heck of a day of hockey.
Now we have the semifinals set. Team USA versus Team Slovakia. Team Canada versus Team Finland. So UC Saros having to go up against the Canadians on Friday morning Central Time. The USA-Slovakia game, a 2:10 Central puck drop on Friday. But that'll do it for us today. Smashville Live. Willie Donick, Max Hers, and Predators GM Barry Trotz is coming up next here at Brewhouse South in Cool Springs. You still have time to get down here. 1855 Galleria Boulevard in Cool Springs. Smashville Live. Willie Donick, Max Hers, Barry Trotz coming up next.
Be love on your people. Have a safe, blessed, and wonderful day. I love you. The team loves you. You hear that music. Don't you forget about us, because we will not forget about you. We're back at the studio tomorrow. See you at 3 p.m. on 102.5 The Game. Peace.
Together, everything inside.